Hey everybody, and welcome to a slightly different edition of Badger Banter. We're going to try out a couple of new formats and kind of see what works. We're going to discuss some different topics, and hopefully we'll hear from you guys in the Patreon what you like and what you don't like, and we'll just kind of tailor that to what you guys want to know, because that's kind of what it all comes down to.
And if you are not already a Patreon, if you're seeing this on YouTube at a later date and you're not a Patreon subscriber, please consider being a Patreon subscriber, because A, they get all this content first, B, they get a say in what we do, so they're kind of our bosses, they kind of control 100%. Us, and C, you get stuff that nobody else will get as well. There's specific segments that nobody else is going to see except for patrons, so, and exclusive content. There's already been a lot of stills and one or two shorts that nobody else has seen yet that only the patrons have, so you can be part of that.
I really like the sad ones when I went up for 24 hours exclusive to patrons. That was really cool.
It was a nice touch because it was a short that a lot of people have been asking me to see. It's still on its festival run, so it's difficult to kind of release it, but just putting it up for that brief time for patrons was really nice. And for me, it was a nice touch as well because it was my birthday, so it was nice to put it out at that time. So we're looking forward to hearing people's feedback on what they like, don't like. And speaking of liking and not liking, that's kind of brings us to what this segment is.
Yeah, so this podcast we're going to talk about today, we're just going to kind of take off from that poll we had on Patreon where we asked what you guys would like to see us discuss on Badger Banter. And you guys kind of said you wanted to see a segment called Movies, Love 'Em or Hate 'Em. So
that brings us here, I guess, to Badger Banter on movies.
Badger Banter on movies.
So we had a good discussion before when we were trying to work out some of these ideas. We were talking about a bunch of different stuff, but we ended up somehow in the car talking about World of Warcraft, in which case Barry brought up that he'd seen the Warcraft movie and I hadn't.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I'd be more of a gamer and you wouldn't be.
Yeah, literally my PlayStation handle is Baz, not a gamer.
So it's almost like gamers don't want to watch video game movies because we feel so burned. We decided that we'd have a chat about video game movies. Yeah,
like from way back when up until more recently, and potentially some predictions for...
Trying to think of like the good ones, because it's a debate I get into a lot. There have been good ones. I always hear people say there's never been a good video game movie adaptation.
Doom.
Interesting.
I had to see your reaction just to
it's
see.
It's definitely by far and away not the worst.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I don't know. I've always had a massive soft spot for the original Mortal Kombat movie.
The one with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
No, not that Street Fighter.
Oh, that was Street Fighter. Yeah, sorry.
That was so bad.
That was pretty atrocious.
It was so...
Yeah, the original Mortal Kombat with Sub-Zero.
Yeah, and like the dude who played Shang Tsung was magnificent. It had that song.
I was just going to say, also that theme song though.
Who cares about the movie? It brought that theme song into the world.
Into mainstream.
That's all that matters. Mortal Kombat.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, they made 2 sequels to that as well, and they were both awful. Awful. So yeah, that's kind of where we're going with this.
Yeah, well, I mean, kind of like DC movies, I guess the standard isn't very high, so...
True. So it's like you're looking through to try and find there's gotta be there is something good in here somewhere.
Well, okay, let me ask you this. What was a video game movie that you saw that you were like, that was really good? Like, obviously there has never been a perfect video game movie. Because you can't really. Like you can't take away control and expect people to enjoy it the same way.
Yeah, it's why I'm very concerned about The Last of Us getting a movie.
Is The Last of Us getting a movie?
Apparently, I think it's been put on hiatus, which made me very happy.
Okay.
Because it doesn't suit that format. It has to be an interactive medium for that story to work.
Okay.
And I'm very nervous about the Uncharted with Tom Holland as Nathan Drake. It just doesn't...
Yeah.
I love Tom Holland, but I don't get the why of it. I don't...
Yeah. Because I haven't played The Last of Us, and... From everything that anybody has ever said to me, it's a very narrative-based game.
Yeah.
Like, it is entirely on what happens in the story that makes it, like, so impactful.
Yeah. But I think it's because you have to go through the experiences between each of those key plot points.
Right.
That's why it's like you're emotionally invested in it because you've had to do it. I think if you just presented them as points in a movie... or in a linear story without like you having to actually get involved. I don't know if you'd have the same emotional connection, the same.
Okay.
You know.
We're not going to talk too much about Last of Us because.
Yeah, because that's a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
And that'll be in our Badger updates, which only our patrons will see.
Boom.
But yeah, like I'm going back to, I mean, video game movies that I didn't hate. Like,
nice phrasing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, there's literally been so few.
That's harsh.
Because I remember going to the cinema to see Tomb Raider and being really excited when it came out, the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
Because I was like 13, it was Angelina Jolie as Lara Croft. I was like, why would I not be excited about this?
100%.
And that didn't live up to it for me. I just, it felt like a missed the
But
mark
that shower scene though.
Yeah.
Because, you know, everyone knows in Tomb Raider how often she has showers.
Oh, of course. If you're raiding tombs all the time, you got to stay clean, you know?
Just for a second, I remember playing Tomb Raider on the original PlayStation. And I remember getting stuck in a part where there was a bear who just used to maul me every single time.
Is that when you have to go into like a small kind of cave area? You kind of go in this little tunnel and then the bear kind of comes out and you get forced back out into... Yeah.
My God, I could not get past that for
Tomb Raider 1
ages.
was actually a ridiculously hard game. Like
Yeah. I loved it though.
Oh yeah. Isn't it weird though that there's these collective shared experiences that people go through where like nobody told them to do it, but everyone did it. And one of them seems to be when I talk to people, they're like, "Do you ever make Lara Croft just go up to the top of a cliff and just swan dive off and kill herself?"
Always.
And I was like, yes. And it's like everyone did that.
Yeah.
Nobody came up and said you should go to the top of a cliff and jump out. It just people just consciously were like, I'm going to throw. Because you could do that swan dive if you like held a certain button as you jumped. And everyone did it.
I think I did it by accident once and just watching her just hit the ground and pancake. It was like, that was pretty funny. I was like, I wonder, can I go higher?
Yeah, it became a kind of a challenge then. But you see, I think that goes back to why, you know, like especially Tomb Raider 1 was not a story-driven game. Like, all we kind of knew was, here's Lara Croft. She is a Tomb Raider adventurer. She's going into this cave. Why? If you read the manual, you might have gotten one page of exposition that briefly explains why. And so I think it's very hard. This is a problem I have with a lot of video game movie adaptations. If they're not very narrative heavy already, and they put a narrative into something where it was never really about the narrative.
Yeah.
But then I'm also worried when it goes the other way, where if it is like all narrative and they decide to change it, like that was. Oh, I've got it. I've got a video game movie that I didn't hate. Resident Evil.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that was pretty good.
It's dated very badly.
I can't say I've watched it in years.
Me and PJ went back and watched, like, we were going to watch the whole gamut of Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil films like 2 years ago, and we were both like, "Oh, this is the good one. This is Resident Evil 1. This is the good one." And then we watched it and we were like, really badly. Like,
oh no,
it feels like a late 90s early 2000s film, that wake of the Matrix era when everything was trying to be the Matrix. Bullet time and new metal music.
Yes, I remember.
But even still, what I liked about it was they took the core elements and they told a completely different story. And so it was like set in the world of that game without trying to tell the story of that game.
Yeah, one that is pretty similar to that kind of concept that I really enjoyed was Prince of Persia.
Yeah, and that got slammed. That was Gore Verbinski. That was the dude who did Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah,
I liked Prince of Persia.
I actually really liked it. Like, I mean, I wouldn't go out there to be like,
best film ever.
Yeah, but I mean, I really enjoyed it. Like, because like, the games that I play are kind of very much Tomb Raider, Prince of Persia. Yeah. You know, those kind of explore platformer
you would love
puzzle
Uncharted
games.
So, man.
Everyone tells me that.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones that, like, okay, I'll ask you this before I go on to talk more about Prince of Persia. Should I play the original Uncharted before playing the new one? Like,
yeah, I have the trilogy on PS4. I'll give it to you.
Yeah, okay.
To play, because I would recommend you should play them in order.
Yeah, like,
because you get to see an amazing progression.
I was just gonna say, the story elements carry over then.
Yeah, like the characters. What makes Uncharted so good is the characters. They're literally the most believable. Alongside The Last of Us, it's it's that team that's working on those games.
Yeah.
They're the same developers.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, that they write characters better than anybody else in video games because they just feel like real people.
Okay.
You're like, by Uncharted 4, you have literally built up this gigantic emotional connection to these characters.
Yeah.
So when they're in peril, when they're whatever, you're actually like, oh no, like, no, I love that guy. Like,
okay,
we're
cool.
friends.
Because the first one I ever saw was Uncharted 3, and I was like, oh, it looks like a man Tomb Raider. It's like, I'm down for this.
That was definitely like the kind of the initial thought by everyone was like, this is just Tomb Raider with a dude. But it's interesting because it's when you do play it, it's quite different. But yeah, yet again, Prince of Persia is exactly what you were saying though. It was another one where it was like, it didn't feel like they were just trying to tell the story of a Prince of Persia game.
Yes.
They kind of went, well, let's do something completely different with it.
Because what I liked about it as well is it did have that kind of like time travel element where he's like, you can pull it back with the...
Oh, you can rewind time.
Yeah, and which is a huge thing in the game.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you're trying to run off a cliff and you're like, oh, didn't make it. It's like, back again.
My favourite thing about that was the voice. There was a voiceover narrator in the game. The Prince was narrating everything.
Yeah.
And when you do that, he'd go, no, it didn't happen like that. And you'd rewind.
Yeah.
I was like, that's great. That's such a great touch. Yeah, I didn't hate that at all. It was definitely, as I say, it was not, as you say, it's not the best film ever. But it's also not woeful. Now to kind of get onto ones that I did hate. It might be unfair to say I hated Assassin's Creed because I do like Fassbender tried.
Yeah.
It was a lot of it in Assassin's Creed it's a pretty convoluted video game.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
It's kind of like a bunch of nonsense 90% of the time. So I kind of felt like if they'd spent more time in the stuff in the past in that movie, probably would have enjoyed it more. But it was the focus on the modern sci-fi side of it that just didn't. I was like, and it was like.
But I mean, when you're playing the game though, that's only like literally cutscenes and loading screens.
It's fit kind of between, like I know in Assassin's Creed 2 they started to make it a little bit more interactive and stuff. But yeah, it's more so just to bridge the gaps between going back into the Animus and.
Yeah.
So I felt like, and also it just rushed to its conclusion. Like it was literally like, I remember when I saw it in the cinema, I think it was 90 minutes long, but like got to that point and then it was just like they were suddenly somewhere else and I was like, I have no idea how we got from there to here, or why, or what they're doing, or why they're now allying forces because they were
teleport. Nobody wants to walk from one end of the map to the other anymore.
That's it. So yeah, Assassin's Creed felt like a very by the numbers, safe. Well, we've got Fassbender, we've got like this huge budget, we've got the great production design. And we've got the brand, so we're going to make loads of money from it one way or the other. Yeah. But it just felt like it didn't have any heart or soul, like, which was what kind of disappointed me. Oh,
that sucks. I'm trying to think of others.
I know, as I say, you mentioned Doom.
Yeah. Now, I didn't like Doom. Yeah. But there was moments in it that I was like, that was pretty cool. I like the first person run.
There was almost a part of me that wished if Doom was made now and they went the hardcore Henry route with it.
Oh yes,
because Doom has to be a first-person shooter.
It really does.
Like it doesn't work as a narratively driven thing. It's
not at all.
Doom is you going around Mars shooting aliens, or shooting demons. So yeah, whenever they went into the first-person sequences, I was like, that's Doom. They're capturing the essence of Doom in those moments. But then everything else felt like filler for those like maybe 20 minutes of those first person sequences. Yeah. The hardcore Henry style Doom would be pretty.
That would be pretty epic.
Yeah.
Have you seen Hardcore Henry yet?
No, I've just seen the trailers
I backed it on fucking Indiegogo and I'm still waiting to see it because it went to TIFF and it did a good run there and then it got picked up for distribution and then it was like, where's my fucking DVD? Because he literally messaged on the Indiegogo saying, hey, we have a deal, but we're in negotiations with them trying to figure out what the story is, and then that was the last we kind of heard.
Oh no, it's one of those stories where it just kind of disappears.
It's like, fucking give me my money back then.
Listen
to you, talking to you, Henry.
We talked about Tomb Raider, the original Street Fighter movie. But then you've got like movies like The Wizard from the 1980s that were like, they weren't video game movies, they weren't based on video game, but they were like selling the Power Glove and selling Nintendo consoles. that was kind of a big thing in the 80s, was like
Yeah.
the movies were an advertisement for a video game console and stuff.
But that has been modernized a touch. Like, if you look at stuff like Corridor Digital, who gets commissioned by the likes of when Shadow of Mordor came out, they got commissioned to make a Shadow of Mordor short,
Okay.
which they then put out online. They did one for, I think it was Pirates of the Caribbean as well. I know it's not a video game, but
Yeah.
a similar thing where they were.
But that's like a lot
Oh
of
no,
these-
it was Assassin's Creed. It was the Black Flag.
Oh, which is my favorite Assassin's
Yeah,
Creed.
and they were given a budget then to do that, and they shot like on a pirate ship and everything, and they shot like a mini short
Yeah.
based on the video game franchise, which was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. Like, yeah, to be honest, 90% of the time, the fan films I've seen of video game stuff are infinitely better than the studio produced stuff.
Well, let me ask you: is that because they're short form rather than feature length?
That's a tricky one, I guess, because it could be, but I think it's more. I think they're short form because they don't have the budget to be feature length.
Yeah,
And I think if those people that were making those films had a budget to make a feature length, it would have a lot more heart than when they just pick a director who is trending at the moment,
Yeah.
and that he doesn't care about that franchise or series.
yeah.
Or, you know,
I get you.
when you see some of those fan films, you're like, this person knows this series inside and out.
Because I'll talk about one of my favorite video game adaptations, which is a short, which is Dan Trachtenberg's Portal.
So good.
Yeah.
Oh, Portal, no escape.
No Escape.
Yeah, so good. Like, and I know I listened to Dan talking about that like it was hell for him. It was like 2 years of VFX, just like non-stop, and trying to shoot it in LA was a nightmare. Trying to find somewhere to get that stairwell.
Yeah.
But like it yet again captured the essence of, and like Valve supported it. They
Yeah,
didn't,
100%.
They didn't go, let's cease and desist this. They were like, this is unreal. Can we put this on like Steam and show it to people, because this is amazing. And that's where it also comes down to the developers. I wish more developers were like that, and if they saw something like a fan film and it was really solid like that,
Yeah.
that they didn't just go, oh well, we're not getting money out of this, we're not getting something out of this, so therefore, and just went, this is really good for our like brand, for our stuff, and it, you know, because Nintendo are notorious for canning people doing
Cease and desist.
anything
Yeah,
with
yeah.
their stuff, and like that, I've seen some great like Nintendo little like there's one called Pokepocalypse, where it takes the idea of Pokemon and makes it like a really gritty, serious. And it's so good because it is like it has all the beats of a really serious action movie. So like he puts Pikachu into fighting this like it's like, and when the Pokemon fight, it's literally like a dog fighting ring.
Oh God!
And, like Pikachu's getting battered, and I was just like, Pikachu, no! And I was like, this is amazing. I would watch that full movie if this was.
Yeah.
The same guys did the Tetris one, where the guys are flying these ships like down into the line to try.
Nice.
It was so good. That's something I'm a big fan of. Is some video games would never work as movies.
Yeah.
Like it's preposterous. And when they do, like a spoof like that, it's awesome. It's better than having a full feature-length film.
I know it's not a video game, but Battleship.
This is such an interesting thing because Battleship, I believe that in years to come, Battleship will be lauded as one of the greatest films of its generation.
If that's the case, I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Battleship is so good. It's so good because it knows it's just making a film of a board game.
Yes, no, 100%. Like, I understand that, but like, I saw, I think it was actually Sneaky Zebra who did, when Battleship was announced, and they were like, we're going to make Battleship a movie. They went and they did like a thing in the jungle about like hungry hippos.
But it's funny because when people were like that, they were like, they're making a game out of like a, you know, they're making a movie out of like a board game. I was like, did you ever see the 1984 Clue film? Like, with,
No way.
What's his name? That amazing Tim Curry. And
No way.
It's so good. It's the whole Clue. And they filmed
Oh,
6
that's
different
amazing.
endings for it. With each, like, who did it with somewhere else with a different thing. It's now become a massive cult classic. At the time it was like
That's pretty
derided. Yeah, I mean, gaming in general though,
You
it's
lift up your mic there a touch. It's
oh, it's kind of droopy.
Just tighten this one here.
One of the big ones that...
Now it's very droopy.
Oh no.
Pause.
So to kind of jump back, I guess, to other video game adaptations, we've discussed Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Doom, Prince of Persia.
Mm-hmm.
You saw Warcraft, so I didn't see Warcraft. You said it was beautiful, but just...
Yeah, like I thought the CG was really good. Like there was moments where it wasn't great, but in generally it looked quite nice. But I went in knowing very little about World of Warcraft, and I left knowing very little about Warcraft. Like it really didn't. It was obviously like a big setup for the next one.
Yeah, and I think what they were looking at with Warcraft was. They have however many 40 million players or whatever. Like I know they have been at points the biggest MMO in the world.
Yeah. So
I reckon for them they were like, even if we just get our direct audience, we'll have sold 40 million copies. You know what I mean? So I'd say for Blizzard, a lot of it was just appealing to their own direct audience.
Yeah, and going back to what you said about like Valve being super in with Dan's film Portal No Escape. Blizzard were very hands-on with this. They essentially kind of did it themselves.
Well, then that's why the CGI is amazing, because all Blizzard, like the speaking of like movies and games stuff, like the little animated trailers for Overwatch are some of the best short films I've ever seen in my life.
I heard that actually.
And like that, they're self-contained. You don't need to know anything about the world. You can just watch them and enjoy them.
What I felt about Warcraft was similar to how you feel about short films that are setups for a feature film.
This was like a setup for a trilogy.
This was a feature film that was a setup for a trilogy.
Yeah.
That didn't really
have any payoff in
like
this one.
It had like a start and an end, but the middle was very wishy-washy.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I was expecting that right off the back of Warcraft they were going to announce StarCraft, because that's their other massive franchise. And yet again, now StarCraft, I look at it and I think they have much better scope to go into it and not have to explain as much.
Yeah.
StarCraft's setup is a lot easier. It's like, here's the universe, these are the bad guys, they've come from outer space and want to destroy humanity, and these are like the ancient protectors of the universe and they want to protect humanity, and the humans are just trying to colonize stuff. And like it's a very easy setup in that sense, and then it's like, and then invasion and then blah. Whereas I think with Warcraft, you're talking about, like, at the point, I know from seeing little bits about this Warcraft movie, I know where that sits in the Warcraft timeline. And there's like, it's like Lord of the Rings, where like there is like thousands of years of backstory before that to explain how it gets to this point, and their relationships with the orcs and why they're like this and why, you know. Okay,
well, let me ask you this: if you were to take a video game that you like, that you think you could do a good movie of, what would you pick?
Essentially, before, one of my big ones would always be Castlevania. I would always jump straight to it because it's the one that I'd have the strongest vision for.
Okay.
The reason behind that, it's funny, it wouldn't have always been, because Castlevania was very non-story. It was kind of like family, that every generation rises to kill Dracula, which yet again actually does create a space for, if you're making a movie, you're like, well, I don't need to follow any of the games, I can just be a different character who's in that family line, who, you know, is going to kill Dracula. But what I quite liked was Hideo Kojima, who did Metal Gear Solid, came on to support a Castlevania reboot a couple of years ago called Castlevania Lord of Shadows. And they went pretty all out in it. Like, they got Robert Carlyle, who I love, to voice the lead character. And they went a very different route with the story than anybody ever expected. But it did have that cinematic quality. And unlike Last of Us, where you have to play the interactive bits because they make you emotionally connected to what's happening. Yeah. You could literally watch the cutscenes of Lords of Shadow and enjoy it like a movie. You know what I mean? So I look at that and I go, I would like to take a story like that and try to tell it with Robert Carlyle. But it did Maria Bella, like, really good cast. And But yeah, it was like Castlevania would definitely be highly up there. I wouldn't touch anything that I really love.
Did Netflix do Castlevania?
They did an anime, yeah.
Anime.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
A lot of people complain because there's only like 6 episodes and they're 20 minutes each. I completely understand that because I'm sure Netflix were like, this could tank.
Test the waters.
We need to just, because animation's expensive, especially traditional hand-drawn cell animation, like very expensive. So I reckon that was a test the water situation, and then it did perform really well. And like that, as I say, even with that anime, it is not telling the story of a specific game. It is another member of the Belmont clan.
Going back to slightly to what we were saying about Warcraft, about how there's fucking loads and loads of lore. And Castlevania is kind of a limited lore. Do you think that's where it opens up a little a pocket, say, for
I think
telling a story?
Yeah, it's why, as I say, I look at something like StarCraft and I say, oh, there's an opportunity in that because although there is now shit tons of lore, when StarCraft 1 came out in 1998, like I remember when Warcraft 1, the game came out, it came with like a companion book like this big to like just give you background on the world and the characters and stuff. Where StarCraft was just like bad aliens coming to kill humanity, destroy them all. And that allows you to insert a lot of your own thoughts and feelings and ideas into it. So yeah, I definitely think you need some breathing room. I think my issue with most video game adaptations is that they go the opposite way of that and pick stuff that has way too much scope or breathing room. That's fighting games. Why have there been so many fighting game movies when fighting games like don't really... There's only one setup for it. It's a tournament. Like, that's the only setup for a fighting game.
Well, I mean, Tekken had quite a lot of lore. Like, if you go back to the original games, like, you know...
that movie was so bad.
Yes, it was.
Did you ever see the Street Fighter one with Katie Couric or whatever?
No.
Your one from Smallville? What's her name? Not Katie Couric. I can't think of her name. She played Chun-Li. It was awful, like beyond compare.
Will you be my Katie Couric?
No, I can't believe I said Katie Couric. I can't think of her name now, but she played Lana Lang in Smallville. She played Chun-Li and it was just an absolute atrocity. Chun-Li was like a spy infiltrating, like, I was like, what is this?
I did see that! That was awful! Oh my god!
It was like the worst form of TV movie ever made.
Oh my god, I had erased that from my memory.
Lucky you.
Oh man.
And Hitman, there have been, 3 Hitman movies at this point? It's been like rebooted 3 times already.
Was it 3? There's definitely 2.
2, yeah, with different actors.
I really liked the Timothy Olyphant version.
Was that the second one?
That was the first one.
Okay.
I thought there was a lot of elements in there that I really liked from the video games.
See, Hitman is one that should work because there is loads of breathing room
to
tell a story. And it's yet again a relatively simple baseline story, which is clone, made to go kill people. Yeah. Fill in the blanks here.
Pretty much. I can't say I've seen the one with Zachary Quinto and the bald guy, Agent 47.
I don't think I've seen that either. But yeah, I had heard...
It is on Netflix.
I had heard that it was better than...
Okay, because the way it was advertised a lot more like a Die Hard type film than Hitman, because it was explosions and helicopters and the whole lot. That's not Hitman at all.
No, Hitman is that like sneaking in, dead quiet, not killing anyone. I mean, that was my favorite thing to do in the Hitman games, was to try and get through a level without alerting anyone. Not like, and even just taking down the victim, not killing them. Like, I love games that give you that option. What am I playing at the moment? Isn't it Deus Ex: Mankind Divided?
Oh yeah.
It gives you rewards for not getting any alerts. Like, that's another series where I think there's a lot of... Now, that one has a lot of lore at this point, but I do feel like you could strip it all back and just go to, like, people get bio-implant. It's very Blade Runner, though. You'd almost be entering Blade Runner territory because it was so influenced by Blade Runner itself. That's sometimes another issue with video game movies, is that video game stuff is often influenced by
a film or
movies. I mean, Uncharted is heavily influenced by Indiana Jones.
Yeah, okay.
So when you have such a strong already kind of pop culture media influence into something, that if you do kind of retranslate it back to that, it loses something in the middle of it all. But yeah, I don't get why they do fighting games. Like, why there've been more fighting game adaptations
than anything else.
Because there was a Dead or Alive movie that was awful as well.
I can only imagine.
Oh god, it was so bad. And I'm just like, why? Like, why Dead or Alive of all the things we could choose? We haven't even touched on Uwe Ball yet. Have you ever heard of Uwe Ball? This dude is mental. He's a German filmmaker who he started out making video game adaptations, and they were awful. Like, they were so bad that people loved them.
Right, okay.
Like B movies of the highest order.
Right,
he did House of the Dead, which was so bad, and then he did Alone in the Dark with Christian Slater and Tara Reid, and that was atrocious. And then he did like a Dragon Siege one with like Jason Statham in the Name of the King.
Oh no.
He did one on Postal, that game where you just run around killing everyone and there's no real story or objective or anything.
Going Postal.
Yeah, he's retired now, thankfully, for the good of mankind.
Yeah.
This same dude once like, because critics were slamming his stuff, he was like, fight me in a boxing ring. So like he invited the
Spider.
What? Why is there a spider in my beard? Leave it might be radioactive.
Yeah, well, I'm taking that chance.
Oh god damn it, you're gonna get bit, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's not fair. If that spider gets bit by a radioactive berry,
does he turn into a...
I don't know, because you could be radioactive with your burn.
Yeah, man, I got a fucking acid burn. Hashtag real life problems.
Yeah, science problems.
Not on camera.
Bernie Berry.
Bernie Burns.
Bernie.
Shout out Bernie Burns, Rooster Teeth.
Actually, speaking of Rooster Teeth, there is somebody that took video game adaptations and ran with them incredibly well.
Wow, what a segue.
That was an amazing segue, because that was not expected or planned or anything.
Yeah.
But like, look at Red vs. Blue. Easily the best, I wouldn't say adaptation, but like spin-off. Like, yet again, Bungie were like, we love this and want to support this. This is incredible.
Yeah.
Like, we'll give you... They gave Rooster Teeth the assets for Halo 3 before Halo 3 was basically like finished.
Yeah.
Because they were like, we want you to go and make new episodes with the new assets. Like,
yeah.
And like, that was... I remember it was one of those things where it started out as just a thing that people were talking about.
Yeah.
Have you seen Red vs. Blue? No, what is it? It's a comedy thing about Halo. I'm like, that doesn't sound very funny.
Yeah.
And then watched like 2 episodes and I'm like, they've taken this stoic character like Master Chief, they've changed the colours of the outfits, so it's the exact same character model, like 8 times, just with different colours, and they've given them all unique personalities. It's almost like Rick and Morty with the same voice actors.
Yeah.
But like, it is comedy gold. And then they progressed it from just being a funny skit thing into having an overarching story that became really epic, like to the point where you were like, oh my god, how is this all going to play out? Like, this is, huge. That is where, as I said, you see people who have real love for the source material.
Yeah.
And even though that's a like comedy thing, it knows everything, all the stuff about Halo that it can take the piss out of. Like, when he's like, this is the Warthog or whatever, and he's like, I'm not calling this thing the Warthog, it's a Puma. It's like, it's beautiful.
It is very clever and it's very well done. And Rooster Teeth in general are very good about adapting that video game stuff. Like, because like the whole company is built around Red versus Blue essentially, and gaming as a whole. Stuff like immersion.
Yeah.
Where they take a video game concept and it's like, would that work in real life?
Yeah.
Apparently Bernie pitched that to NBC. They were going to make a
TV show out of it.
A TV show out of it. And they were like, I don't think people would watch it. So they went and did it themselves. And it's
50 million views.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, nobody would watch that except for the 50 million people who watched it on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah.
It's one of they're pretty. They did. I remember back when they were starting out doing that content and they were testing the waters with other stuff. They did Simsville, which was like a sitcom set in like, and they just used The Sims like yet again, and just and they did one with Fear that was brilliant. It was so funny as well, but they only did like 6 episodes.
Right.
But it was like they voiced over the commandos or whatever in Fear, and the little spooky girl appearing and stuff, and they're just like, that little girl scared the goddamn shit out of me. It's like they're just so good at taking those really serious games, taking the piss out of them with love. Like, not taking the piss out of them because, oh, these games are rubbish.
Yeah.
Like, they're brilliant games, but they're so serious. Like,
I think that's what I really like about Achievement Hunter is...
Yeah, they're great.
Like, is the way the 6 guys interact with each other.
Yeah.
And how they then pull the piss out of the game in the same sense, like, where they're like, I fucking love this game, but like, this annoys me, and this is funny. And
that's interesting, though, because you kind of brought me onto something else, which is we're talking about video game movies and video game adaptations.
Yeah.
But it kind of feels like in the modern age, that's almost unnecessary, because we live in an age where kids, teens and stuff, watch Let's Plays.
Yeah.
Like, if they want to see the story of a game, they don't need it crammed into an hour and a half movie, because they'll just watch 15 episodes of a Let's Play.
Yeah.
Like, willingly, you know? If they like the personality doing it. So, yeah, it's maybe it's going to be harder moving forward to do adaptations, because it's so easy to access the content
that is already there.
Yeah, like
one of the things Achievement Hunter do is they have a series on GTA 5 where they do heists. It was when heists were announced.
Yeah.
And then it took like a year for heists to actually come out.
Yeah.
They were like, why don't we do our own heists? So they basically were like, they did this thing where they went into like a boardroom and they had like a printed out map of like GTA, and it was like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go to here. You're going to steal this van from here. You're going to steal this plane from here. And they planned it out like they were going to rob a heist.
Yeah.
And then they played it out when they got into the game where if they died, they had to be silent because they were dead. Yeah. So it was like, Gavin, can you hear me? Can you hear me? As Gavin had already been hit by a truck or whatever, so it was like he couldn't respond.
Yeah.
And they played it out like a narrative, and then each one had their own heist that they planned.
Yeah.
And it was so good.
That's what I mean. The content is there now for anybody to effectively take a game and tell a story out of it. That, like, I don't know if video game movie adaptations necessarily work anymore, which brings us, I guess, a little bit into the kind of final section of this, which is upcoming, which I guess the only one that springs to mind for me, I mean, there's obviously going to be a Warcraft 2. It was as far as I know, it was a box office success in China.
In China, yeah.
So that's all they're going to care about.
Yeah, they made their money back and then some.
Yeah, so, but other than that, it's basically the new Tomb Raider movie.
Tomb Raider.
With Alicia Vikander, who was amazing in Ex Machina.
She's just amazing, full stop. Like, anything I've seen her in, she's just been brilliant.
Yeah, so...
But Tomb Raider, though,
it's one of those things where I absolutely loved the reboot game. I was like, it felt like it was the most needed reboot of any video game. As I'd said, the original Tomb Raider was not a story-driven thing.
Yeah.
So as they tried to push Lara more and more into the modern gaming system, alongside games like The Last of Us and Uncharted, which had these incredible narratives, it felt like Lara was getting left behind. You know what I mean? It was like... And so when they brought out the reboot, which was written phenomenally by Rhianna Bratchett, who took the idea went back to scratch with Lara Croft and said, okay, let's take her away from being a tank top wearing, fucking sex object, and instead let's make her like, okay, if she was a 22-year-old girl who's just finished college and is going out on her first expedition, like, and she runs into cannibals and a rival mercenary group, and they're on an island that's surrounded by a fucking whirlwind, like the Bermuda Triangle, that won't let them out, and she just put this young adult. It took that kind of young adult vibe that's been so popular over the last 10 years and threw Lara Croft into it and made it really interesting again. Made it really. Lara felt like a human being again. She wore a heavy jacket in snowy regions. I was like, that's cool. Lara Croft should wear a big jacket in snowy regions.
Let's face it, she doesn't have a huge amount of body fat, so she needs that jacket.
I just felt like they humanized her. They humanized Lara Croft and took her away from just being, I remember Toby Garrett, who created Lara Croft, said when he was working on Tomb Raider 2 and FHM did the cover shoot of Lara Croft back then, he was like, I'm going away from this franchise now because this is not what I intended. I intended a powerful female character, not FHM. Yeah. Like making her sexiest woman of the year or whatever.
That's weird.
Yeah, so you imagine being the creator of Lara Croft and being like, what? And apparently even like the fact that she had really big boobs in the original game was just a glitch because of polygons. It was the only real way that they could make her look like she had any kind of boobs. and then they just look massive.
Yeah.
So yeah, but what I like, I mean, there's a part of me that would love for this movie to be good because Alicia Vikander's great and stuff like that. But I just, from the trailer, I get the fear that it's going back to that idea that I don't know if they've tapped into that, like, that space I was talking about in between.
Yeah.
It feels like they're either trying to do a direct adaptation of the reboot game.
Yeah.
Which, when you take a 12-hour, like, I mean, even when you take out all the gameplay, a 4-hour story and try and cram it into
2 hours.
2 hours, something's going to get lost in there. Yeah, I just... It's one that I'd love to be proven wrong on. I hope it comes out and blows me away.
I'm the same. Like, I've seen the trailers, and from what I've seen of the trailers, I'm like, this doesn't appeal to me in any way.
One thing that frustrated me was the explosions.
Yeah.
Do you know what you were saying a minute ago about Hitman and stuff? There's parts in that Tomb Raider trailer where she's like jumping and there's like an explosion behind her, and I'm like, that's not Tomb Raider. Like, even the new one, yeah, there are elements later in the game and stuff, but like, it's still not about that.
Yeah.
There's this great thing that one of my mates who was never a huge Tomb Raider fan, when I showed him the reboot and we were playing through it and stuff, there's this amazing, like, opening, early in the game, Lara is like, petrified. She kills her first person and like vomits, and it's like, this is harrowing for her and all the rest of it. And then what I love is like, she's just put in this situation and she's in it like for hours, for days and whatever, and eventually, like, later in the game, I just love that, like, when you pick up a machine gun for the first time in a certain set piece and you have to just like blast guys, you can choose to just run out of the place, but if you start blasting guys, like, the voice actor is just like, come on, you bastards. And I just love that, like, her character has progressed from like this like, naive, scared girl to just being like, I'll fucking kill you all,
fuck you up.
Yeah, I was like, that is great. That's what,
that's character development, though.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot harder to tell that character development across a 2-hour movie in the same way. Like, whereas, as I say, when you fire that first arrow and kill the first person and Lara vomits, you're like, oh shit, I did that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And whereas, I don't know if it would have the same effect. Oh, the acting could be incredibly convincing, so that could definitely do it. But I don't know. There's something about being the person who pulls that right trigger.
Yeah, that sense of responsibility and.
There's something I played recently that did that, where, like, I'm not going to say what it was because that would give away stuff. But a game I played recently that, coming to the end of it, the very last thing, like, the main character gets killed. But you, like, it hangs on like the right trigger, and it makes you, the player, pull it, and you're like, this hurts so bad. Like, this is not what I wanted.
I guess just coming up to kind of wrap it up and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll ever have a perfect video game movie.
Yeah.
But we will probably have perfect video games that tell like stories.
You know what's a good thing though? The Ratchet and Clank movie.
Okay.
Like, that's where you take, like, I would love to see Nintendo or somebody do a Mario CGI movie. Like, cartoon, like Pixar style. That is where I see there being huge potential. Like, one we didn't mention, because it's not necessarily an adaptation, but the closest thing, like Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah.
Where it brings in video game properties and like that is a great use of video games as pop culture and how to play off them and stuff. But I mean, if there was ever a Sonic movie, if it was CGI, if it was a Pixar style thing, they could possibly do it really well, because that's what Ratchet and Clank did and did it really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, as for live action, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, because what I was kind of working towards was the Telltale games.
Yeah.
Are probably the closest games we'll get to being movie narratives. Until Dawn, yeah, same principle. Until
Dawn is like that real, like, anyone who's played it that I know has been like, that is the closest thing to an interactive movie I've ever played.
I have footage of me, Nikki, and Vachin playing Until Dawn, where I made Nikki and Vachin make all the decisions. Oh,
nice. I love doing those things, because you just, like, you get to talk to the people around you.
I felt that I hadn't played it, but I had watched Let's Plays and stuff, so I felt like if I make a decision, I'm going to be basing it off what I know from what I've seen. Yeah. but it was like I'm going to be here, I'm going to be on camera, but you guys are making the decisions.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
So I have all that footage. Like,
okay, so we're going to splice some of that in here at the end. Enjoy.
Surprise.
Barry didn't know about this, but
No.
now it's happening.
But I mean, if that's something that you'd be interested in seeing, like something kind of more long form,
Yeah, it's
stuff like
something.
that.
I mean, this, as we say, this section is movies, love 'em or hate 'em.
Yeah.
Video game movies, more in the hate 'em pile than in the love 'em. So
Yeah, I guess in my corner is kind of like I'm waiting for one to impress me.
yeah, waiting for one to blow me away. Because I
Yeah.
mean, like we say, there's ones that are like, it wasn't the worst thing ever, but that's not the
not
standard.
praise.
Yeah, you know, we need one that would go, holy shit. And as I say, other mediums like anime and stuff has done it. We
Yeah.
need the feature film version of that. When they let me, I know I said Castlevania, but when they let me do the Metal Gear Solid movie, they'll get the video game movie.
That we deserve.
I'm keeping Christian Bale on my list for Solid Snake.
Oh, good shout.
It's either Christian Snake,
Christian Snake.
Christian Bale playing the younger Solid Snake, or Hugh Jackman playing the older Solid Snake. That's
good cast.
They're my routes for that. And so hit me up, Sony. We've talked about this in the past.
Our fees are negotiable, only to the point of how many millions we take.
But yeah, I like that. I want a video game movie that makes me go, oh, it is possible.
Are you hopeful for video game movies in the future? No. Well, I mean, I'll be
Define
honest.
hopeful.
You haven't had a reason to be hopeful yet.
True.
But do you? Because I know we kind of touched on it earlier with Let's Plays, where you're like, it's going to be harder to make them.
I think that if Hollywood, I think as much as I wasn't a huge fan of the Assassin's Creed movie, possibly the thing I appreciated most about it, and it's the same thing that you said to some extent about Warcraft, is that Blizzard had a heavy hand in Warcraft. Ubisoft had a heavy hand in Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
I think if we get to the point where more game development companies are working with the companies making the movies, one thing I would like to see a lot more of is writers being brought on who worked on the actual games.
100%.
Because 9 times out of 10, that's, as I say, in these modern narrative-driven games, that is where most of the charm comes from, is because that writer wrote that character a specific way.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, that's, I guess, if you look at something like Deadpool that has the opening credits where it pulls the piss out of absolutely everybody involved.
Yeah.
And then calls the writers the real heroes here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the best homage you can get to the people who tell these stories.
You're asking as well about, is there any hope, I guess, for video game movies? 20 years ago we were saying the same thing about comic book movies. Is there any hope for comic book movies? They're not good.
They're true.
Rubbish, typically. And then Blade came out, and then Iron Man came out, and now we live in an age of amazing comic book movies. So maybe, fingers crossed, there's always hope.
Just a little thing then about comic book movies. We're not going to go into it because
that's movies love 'em or hate 'em, episode 2.
Definitely leaning on the love 'em side of that.
Yeah.
But in the same way, that there's so much lore in comics, and there's so much story, so many stories.
Yeah.
I think Marvel have done an incredible job of pacing what they need to tell to develop these characters and then put them in situations that'll
and
work.
also giving directors freedom. I mean, you don't have to like every Marvel movie that's come out. I know, for example, First Avenger wouldn't be one of your favourites. I hate, not a lot of people like Thor: The Dark World, as I didn't. But you know what? At least the directors making those movies had the freedom to make those movies the way, love them or hate them, the way they envisioned them.
Nice tagline, throw it in.
Yeah.
Smooth.
So yeah, we just have a thing, a siren that goes off he said the name of the show. It is one of those things where I just feel like Marvel have allowed so much freedom, so much creativity into it and they haven't gotten hung up on ensuring that the story is told the right way, in the sense of in the comics, this is how it happens.
Yeah.
They're going, we don't care about that. How does it make sense in our universe?
Yeah.
How does it flow our story forward? The comics are the source material.
Yeah.
But that's
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I was trying to get across, is they've kind of taken that general, we have fuck tons to work with. It was what suits us, and then what story can we tell with that?
Yeah, which is, I mean, going back, I guess, if Sony tomorrow still wanted to make a Last of Us movie, I would say do it, but make it about a different group of characters in this world. Don't tell the story of Joel and Ellie, because that's there already, and it's already been done to near perfection. Like, so everything you do with a movie of that is going to be compared to an already near perfect story. So instead go, well, you know, it's not just those characters. This is an interesting world. Like, let's explore, because that's kind of what Marvel do. They go, yeah, we've got our Iron Mans and our blah, but we've got our Doctor Stranges. Yeah. Like, we don't have to, constantly go back to the well of the big guys. Yeah, yeah. And then they create, like, when you get Guardians of the Galaxy, which nobody really knew of. Yeah.
James Gunn used to direct badly dubbed porn.
He did, and he also did. He wrote Romeo and Juliet and the Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed.
Really? Oh, no way!
That's was funny. James Gunn got a nice, reasonably sized paycheck for that. Yeah. And he wrote loads of stoner jokes into Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed.
Yeah, but Shaggy was always...
He was, but James Gunn was like, like when Shaggy's on a plane and that, and he's talking to this girl, her name is Mary Jane, which is like marijuana. Yeah. And he's like, I love Mary Jane. So... Yeah, I guess my final word on that whole Are You Hopeful thing is... There was at one point there was no hope for comic book movies. Now we live in an age of amazing Marvel comic book movies.
The golden age, people say.
Yeah. So the right people behind them, the right creative freedom to tell stories the way they want to. I think there is a hope for video game movies, but studios have to stop just looking at the dollar signs of it and start thinking about allowing some kind of creative freedom to fans of properties. Not just, who's the biggest director of the moment, get them on this. Yeah. Because that person mightn't give a shit about that property.
Hashtag Michael Bay.
Hashtag Justin Kurzel.
I don't know who he is.
He's the guy who did Assassin's Creed.
Oh. Saws.
Like, you got the eagle jump right, and you did a really cool practical effect on it. That was great.
Yeah, but you can't fucking latch a movie on one practical effect.
That's effectively what they did with Assassin's Creed. On a hood and a jump. Assassin's Creed was just... when they say on a wing and a prayer, it was a hood and a jump. Oh, no. But yeah, so video game movies, it's very much at present in our current environment, I think it's in a fairly hate 'em section.
I would have to agree.
But we're always hopeful. Tell us on Patreon and YouTube and Facebook. Tell us about video game movies that you like. Maybe you have different opinions to us. Maybe you're like, screw you, the second Hitman movie was amazing, or Dead or Alive is the greatest film of our generation.
I love the way you couldn't even get through that sentence without laughing.
It's so bad. But yeah, you might have different opinions to us, and that's awesome. Let's discuss it if you do.
We want to hear about it. So
actually, we've just sat here and talked about this for ages. Video game movies, love them or hate them. Tell us below.
Let us know. Thanks very much for watching, guys. And like you said, if you want to see these before anyone else, be sure to check us out on patreon.com/Celtic Badger Media. I'll put a link somewhere where Paddy's pointing probably. And thanks very much for watching.
If you don't, it'll be even better.
I'll just leave it on you while I'm talking. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. Bye.
So I'm going to entertain the crowd while Paddy fiddles with his knobs.
I can't.
Do you want me to fiddle with your knob?
Yes. I need you.
I'm going to cut all this out.
I need you to fix my knobs. It's like...
Oh god, I broke the chair!
It's okay.
Okay, now tighten that. You know what, I might leave this in.